welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today we're going to talk about practices for comfort and connection. This might seem a little off topic, but I stumbled across an article that I really enjoyed, and I thought actually it fit in perfectly fine with the subject matter because I'm always talking about self-care, taking care of yourself, staying connected with others to help process your grief. So I thought this would actually be very fitting in giving you tips and ideas on how to comfort yourself and work through your grief. Before we dive in, you know what I'm going to say. Did you know I have a Patreon? Yes, I do. I would love to have your support. You can find me at patreon.com/NikkiTheDeathDoula. And the reason why I keep bringing this up, a perfect example has happened just this week, the week I'm recording this, not the week you're hearing it, because I record these a little bit out. But I was approached by someone at a local nonprofit that provides shelter for transitionals. I mean, for homeless people with transitional housing. Transient was the word I was looking for, but either way, they provide temporary housing for transients and help them to find permanent housing. And it's a wonderful organization. And they contacted me because one of the people they are housing right now in a temporary facility is dying of cancer and has very limited time left. And they wanted somebody to help work with him on his legacy and making sure he's mentally and emotionally ready to go. And what a beautiful opportunity for me to help somebody who really genuinely needs my help. That said, this is going to be pro bono work, and this is not something I can do very frequently. But the more patrons I get and the more support I can have, the more I can do things like this. And I would love to, you guys. I'd love to just give my services away for free. I've done marginal work with some other folks who just don't have the funds to pay me my rates. And I'm not going to tell people, whatever. But, I can't provide full and comprehensive service and, spend the amount out of my time I would like to with some of these folks because I have bills to pay too. So if you would support me through Patreon, or even if you just want to make a donation to me, you can do that as well. Reach out and I can help walk you through how to, make a donation for me to do things like this. I am not a nonprofit, so if you do want to make a donation to me, unfortunately, I don't think it would be a tax write-off. I'm not a tax attorney. I don't know. But anything you can do to help me to provide more of my time for pro bono work would be amazing. Unless I just suddenly start getting loads of cash from other things. That would be great. Also, before we dive in, if I haven't mentioned it already, and if you haven't checked it out, I now have a store on my website where I have some workbooks I've written and some other great references and materials you can download. Some are for free, some are paid. And if you're my Patreon, you get the paid ones for free. So I'll just throw that in there. But you can access those at NikkiTheDeathDoula.com/store. So or you just go to my website, click on the little store up in the corner. You can buy some really great things. That helps too. Any income I can make would be helpful. And it's not just about you giving me money to pay my bills and buy bourbon. I have other means of income for things like that. I just want to help provide more of my time to people who can benefit from my services. Okay? Okay. Now, let's dive in. Let's talk about these beautiful practices of comfort and connection throughout the world. Again, I'll link this article in the description, but the first one is one of my favorites, and I actually have not read the book. I've read about it a lot, but I need to read the book. But there's a great practice from Denmark called Hygge. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right. It's spelled Hygge. Again, it's in the article, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Hygge. And this is basically called the art of coziness. And I love this so much because this is how I've kind of always been. And I just like that there's a whole surrounding around this. But basically with Hygge, it's just creating an atmosphere of cozy and comfy and warm. Especially in the wintertime when it's dark and it's cold, You can light a candle, turn your lights down, get into your Snuggies, bundle up with a blanket, read a book, relax, drink hot tea. Like, just think the most cozy, warm, soft, comfortable atmosphere that you can. And this is something I encourage my clients to do too. Find something that makes you feel comfortable and cozy, and retreat to that when you need to. When you need a break, or when you just need to clear your brain, cozy up under a blanket. I like That's personally my favorite thing to do. And I'm a huge fan of candles, much to the chagrin of my husband. I will not say I've never gone to bed and left one lit before. I've never left one lit when leaving the house, though, because I usually only light candles at night. But I'm a huge fan of candles and warm blankets and the couch and the cat. So that's a beautiful one I recommend to a lot of people. The next one is called Fika. I'm not sure it's Fika or Fika, so I apologize. This is from Sweden. And I love this one too. This is something I've been trying to embrace. My brain really fights this one, but I'm trying so hard to embrace it. But this is the art of coffee breaks and connections. And this is really just a way to take a break from your day, meet up with somebody. It can be a friend, it could just be a coworker, a colleague, family member, but just taking a break out of your day. Put your stuff away, put your phone away, put your email away, put all your work and everything away, and just sit and connect with somebody. Just talk with them, ask them about their day. How's your day? How's their day? Like, this is the best time to make deep connections with people. And in grief, this can be so important. I always encourage people to find support groups, because you can find like-minded individuals that might be going through something similar as you. But grabbing just one person maybe who gets it, and just taking time out of your day to sit and talk through your grief with them is huge. And they'll probably get something out of it too. They might have something they're working through that they would appreciate your company on. So take a break out of your day, put everything away, and just connect with a human being. Connect with one other person if you can. The next one is Lagom, also Sweden. I'm telling you guys, if I could move to any country, Sweden is near the top of the list right now. Anyway, I love so much about their culture and their atmosphere, their vibe. It's fantastic. But Lagom translates to just enough, or just the right amount. And this is a beautiful way of finding balance in your life. And this is kind of more about money and your home, but we can apply this to grief too. So when you think about just enough, you think about, you don't need 3 coffee makers, or, a coffee maker, a Keurig, and all the, I'm just using kitchen appliances because that's what I can think of. And you don't need 12 different instruments for cooking. You don't need 12 pans. Maybe you can get by with 3, but it's the art of not overwhelming yourself with more things than you need. And again, this can be applied to our grief as well. If you are finding yourself in a situation where your grief is too much, and it's just the forefront of your mind all day, every day, for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, maybe you need to try one of these other methods to break away from it for a little while. Maybe you just need to tone it down a little bit. Maybe, we need to cut things out of our life so that we can relax our brains a little bit. If you are going through a deep grief and you are working a job, volunteering, going to your church and participating with this, and your kids have 12 different after-school programs, maybe you need to cut those back for a while. Maybe you need to simplify until you're in a better headspace. There's nothing wrong with that. And if there's somebody over there that will not be your friend anymore because you can't commit to going to this one particular community event every week, well, then that's on them. Point blank, that's on them. It's not you. But if you need to step back from some things and simplify your life until you get over the hump with your grief, go for it. I encourage that a lot. Grief takes time and effort and work on your behalf. And if you need to cut some other things out of your life to make that work, go for it. Okay, the next one I am really going to butcher, and I probably should have Googled how to pronounce this. Glugavur. I am so sorry, from Iceland. I hope I pronounced that right. Glugavur. I'm just going to say that's how it's pronounced. I'm probably wrong. But this translates as window weather. And this is another one I love. This kind of goes hand in hand with hygge. My favorite thing in the world is sitting on my nice, warm, snuggy couch with my blankets and candles and looking out the window at snow. And the gist of this is to enjoy when the weather is poopy. Find a way to sit in your window and embrace it. And oh my God, how perfectly that aligns with our grief, right? We can compare our grief to crappy weather sometimes. Sometimes it's poopy. Sometimes we don't like it. And sometimes it's good to just separate yourself from it, sit and look at it, observe the poopiness of your grief. I'm using the word poop a lot. I hope that's okay. Sit back and just look out the metaphorical window, or even literal. If the weather's really bad and you're one of those people that it affects your mood, that's normal. It does to me too sometimes. Sit back and just try to find the beauty in it. I love the pitter patter of rain. I love hearing it tink on the windows. I love watching the snow, and it gives you a feeling of safety and security and warmth when you can watch this from inside a warm, safe location. So you can do this with your grief too. It takes work and effort, but you can try to separate yourself from your feelings and observe them objectively. So there you go. That is Glugavur. Oh, good Lord. Nobody come at me with that. I'm sorry. Okay, the next one is Ikigai from Japan. And this is finding purpose and joy. I like this one a whole lot. There is a YouTuber I follow who is all about simple life and simple living and Japanese culture. He's from a small village in Japan and just shares the most beautiful. He just has such a great outlook. He's just such a lovely human. He travels all over the world too to do matcha ceremonies. And yeah, anyway, the idea with this is finding, it's right there in the title, finding your purpose and your joy, right? And with grief and with loss, this can be a real challenge. It's really hard to find your joy and your new purpose. And one thing I go over with my clients a lot, the thing that people don't seem to understand with grief is once you have lost something or someone, you become a new version of yourself, a version of you without whatever that person or thing was, right? So finding this new you can be really hard, but you have to find that person, embrace them, learn who they are, and move forward from there. So finding a new purpose, a new joy, if it's not something that was there before, that's okay. If you're reimagining a joy that you had in your life prior to whatever this was you lost, great. But find what not only brings you joy, but brings you purpose, makes you feel like you're meaning something in the world, makes you feel like you're really part of a bigger thing. This, I can't explain how much this will improve everything around you. I wish I could explain it in words, but I can't. It's one of those things that once you do it, you're like, okay, this makes sense. But just finding those small joys and those new purposes in your life after loss is such an important step. It takes time. Don't expect to do it right away. And you might trip and fall. You might try and fail, and that's okay. Through failure, we learn. Okay. The sixth one is Ubuntu from Africa. I love this. There's different ways to kind of translate this, but it basically translates as I am because we are. And this kind of goes back to the philosophy of being part of a bigger thing. Collectivism versus individualism is what's basically stated in this article. And we are hardwired as humans to be part of a community. And myself included, I like to think I'm a lone wolf. I like to say I can go at it on my own, but we are not. We are not set up that way. We need community and we need people. And we exist because we are part of a larger group, right? Whether it's just your community, your religious belief, your culture, your state, your country, you're part of something bigger and you exist because of that. So recognizing that you're part of a larger group and part of a community, this is a great first step because this also goes back to finding your joy. find ways you can help in your community. Find ways you can be part of your community. Is there like a monthly gathering? Is there some place where you can volunteer to give back some time or help? Do you have a neighbor that lives alone? Maybe they need some help around the house, or maybe they just want somebody to talk to. We're all part of a larger community, and when you can find yourself part of it, you will feel so much less alone. Grief is so isolating. And when you can find yourself as part of a community, it will help so much. Now for my favorite, last and definitely not least, because it's my favorite, it is the siesta. It says it originated in post-Civil War Spain. When I went to Mexico many, many years ago, I'm not going to age myself and tell you when it was, but it was the 90s. Okay, I went to Mexico, and one thing, we spent a lot of time out in kind of the smaller villages. We weren't in Cancun or anything like that. But everything kind of shut down in the middle of the day, starting around like 11 a.m. to noonish, and things would be closed until 2 or 3, 4 even. And it was siesta, basically. And the reasoning behind that was because that was the hottest part of the day, and it was insanely hot down there. It was absolutely brutal. I went in the middle of summer, so but it was amazing. It was a great trip, but everything just kind of shut down so people could chill out, right? And this, there's more about it in the article here, but there would be people that would just work until about 2, and then would take a longer lunch break, 2 to 4, and then they would work till a little bit later in the day. And a lot of European cultures operate this way. They'll take a longer break in the middle of the day, and they might work a little later at night, but that's just how they're set up. And I love this, and I utilize this a little bit myself. I'm an early person. I tend to get up very early, and I work out, and then I jump right into work, and I'll work pretty hard until about 10 a.m. And then I'll ease up a little bit, and then I'll have lunch, go for a walk. I do, other things. Then I go back to work, and I might work a little bit later. But the idea behind this is not just to beat the heat of the day, but to take some time to recharge yourself. And this is great for just life in general, but especially in grief. If you're just constantly going and going and going, and you don't take a break, you're going to burn out. And the same thing goes with your work on your grief. I always tell people, yes, you do have to work through your grief. Take a break from it sometimes. Take a break. Take a day where you're not thinking about it, you're not dealing with it, you're not quote unquote working on it, you're just out being you. Okay? And the grief's always going to be there. It's not like you can just make it disappear for a day. You can't always take vacation, but take a break from thinking about it if you can. And try to take some time every day for yourself. I wish I could take a nap every day, but sometimes I do. Whatever. I don't have a full-time job anymore. I can take a nap in the afternoon if I want. I can't always. I'm kind of busy, but either way, take the gist of it is just take some time for yourself. Slow down. Take some time every day if you can. You don't have to take a 2-hour lunch break if you're not able to do so. Take 20 minutes. Take an hour. Get outside. Meditate. Yoga. Whatever is going to work best for you. Get some movement in. So those are my 7 practices to help you find comfort and connection. I hope that was useful to you. I hope one of those stuck out to you, or all of them. I'll put a link to that article in the description. There are other links within that, so you can learn a little bit more about any of those if you would like. But yeah, all right. Future editing Nikki here, jumping in to say I completely forgot to do the death deck when I recorded that episode. My bad. So I'm going to jump in and do that right now, a week after I recorded this. Anyway, so here we go. I'm sorry. I forgot. And now it's time for the death deck. Woo! I'm actually pulling from the end of life deck. So I'm gonna shuffle this up. Oops, I hit the microphone. Sorry if that was loud. If it is, I'll edit it out. Edited is hard to say. Okay. I like this one. I like all of them. Anyway, cards or video messages left to be opened by loved ones after my death are A, a beautiful gesture, but I'm not sure I have it in me. B, something I plan to do so I can be with them on special occasions. Or C, depressing and kind of creepy, no thanks. I actually have met a couple times the gentleman here in Columbus who has a really cool business he started called My Last Farewell. And he does video messages people can make for their loved ones after they are gone. Well, they make them before they die, obviously. But the cool thing with this is he has a whole special thing he does where you can, if you have a final will written, you can read it on camera and they can have that in case there's any chance of anybody trying to contest the will. Most judges will watch the video of you reading it and say they're clearly of sound mind and body, the will stands. So that's something cool you can do. But he has told all sorts of cool stories of people who have utilized his services. He had a woman who was dying of cancer, and she made videos for her daughter and videos to be played on her 16th birthday, when she graduated high school or college, and her wedding day. And what an amazing gift that will continue to be given to this girl for the rest of her life. Like, anyway, so I think it's amazing. I will very likely do something like that myself, but if nothing else, my podcast should be out there in the universe forever. I have an old YouTube series I did years ago that's out there. I've got plenty of content that exists, but I still think it'd be cool to do some type of special video for my family. Okay, now back to the episode I recorded last week. Well, thank you for tuning in this week. You can find me online at nikkithedeathdoula.com. Again, my Patreon, Nikki the Death Doula, on Patreon, patreon.com/NikkiTheDeathDoula. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Nikki the Death Doula. But I would love to hear from you. If you love this episode, the best thing you can do for me would be to tell a friend about it. Leave me a review. That would be even better. Tell more people find me. It's how the algorithms work. But just, but don't be afraid to reach out to me. Send me a note. Let me know if you love the show. Let me know if you don't like the show. Let me know if you have a story you'd like to share on your grief. I'd love to have you. Reach out. I'm here. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing week. And remember, as always, your grief is yours. Your feelings are valid. Grief doesn't always have to suck.